tried to stop it from happening. We have got to understand the seriousness of the situation that we are currently in. It's 3 years since we voted to leave the European Union, and we are no closer to leaving. And that is down to one simple reason. Our politicians lied to us. They said that they would implement the decision we made. We now know that was a lie. They said we would leave the single market and the customs union. We now know that was a lie. They said they would listen to
who got elected on manifestos to respect the result, who have simply ignored what people said. And we have seen every devious method being used, backed up, I have to say, and he might even hear me, by a speaker who has done everything he can to stop it. But we are here today, and it's very, very important that while we are not celebrating leaving tonight, we are celebrating the fight back, and the fight back begins tonight. So the message goes out that if we end up with having to have European Union elections, very few of the current Labour and Conservative MEPs will get elected. And if we have to have another referendum, and absolutely would be going against every tenet of our democracy, but if we have to have another referendum and those hypocrites in there make us have another referendum, we will go out and we will win in an even bigger way.
Printed 200,000 beer mats criticising the EU and the IMF. And now the pub group's founder, Tim Martin, is taking the debate to his drinkers personally, visiting 100 of his pubs across the country, talking to customers and encouraging them to vote out.
I think it's probably overplayed. Economists got it completely wrong about the outcome of the referendum.
For example, that food prices will rise, that's come from big business, and it's not true.
So we believe the country would be better off with no deal because it's a protectionist system, so why not say it?
Please welcome to the stage, Tim Martin.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for coming. What passion you are showing today, it's really terrific. And very great for us speakers that you're all here. Today, as other people have said, is all about democracy. Democracy works. That's why we want to have it. Look at the success of countries like New Zealand, Australia. Look at Japan. Once it became democratic, in a few decades, became the second or third biggest economy in the whole world. Look at South Korea versus North. Look at the great success of democratic USA, our friends, compared to poor old South America, which has suffered economically and in every other way because of a lack of democracy. The problem with the EU is it's becoming more and more undemocratic. It's got 5 unelected presidents. That's not democracy. It's got MEPs who can't initiate legislation. That isn't democracy. And it's got a court which isn't subject to proper democratic control. That's not democracy. Now, we've been arguing about this, MPs have been arguing about this for decades, and it was decided that the way out was to give a vote to the people. The people voted to leave. They didn't vote for a deal. So, there's a lot of scare stories around. Don't believe them. Things like the ports are going to seize up. Anything you buy from the EU, you can buy from the rest of the world. We've swapped French brandy for Aussie brandy. And French champagne for English sparkling wine. Ladies and gentlemen, I just do want to emphasise, and I do mean this, that European people are our friends and allies. themselves are shackled to the EU and have tremendous economic problems in countries like Greece and in southern Europe. But what's important for us is now to leave the EU. That'll give a great shot in the arm for people who believe in democracy on the continent as well. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Entrepreneurs, he knows a thing or two about free trade, and he's one of the most passionate Brexiteers. So for our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, we've got someone from the left. Claire Fox created and is the director of the Academy of Ideas, and she does have a few ideas, let me tell you. She's also the author of a fantastic book on free speech. Do we believe in free speech? I can't hear you. That's better. So please give a huge welcome to a committed Brexiteer, Lexiteer, Claire Fox.
Okay, everyone. I'm not going to lie to you. Defeat feels pretty grim. Watching the grotesque shenanigans in Parliament, where they're twisting and scheming to do everything to thwart Brexit, I know many people who voted Leave feel despondent, crushed, demoralised and bitter. We're howling with rage and frustration, and it is easy to conclude that our vote counts for nothing and that we count for nothing. But I've got a reminder for you. Whatever they do in there to Brexit, Brexit has changed everything. Our historic vote has changed the course of history. We have proved that the universal franchise and popular sovereignty that were fought for by the Putney debaters through to the suffragettes and the Labour movement was bloody well worth it. Because the establishment threw everything at us, didn't they? Threats and insults and all the levers of power. But we thought for ourselves. We proved we can't be bought, we can't be cowed. We voted, and we voted the way we wanted to vote. And we voted, and we won. That win sent shockwaves, not only towards all of them, but throughout the world. It changed the way the world views Parliament now. Parliament is exposed as enfeebled, populated by oh-so-clever tricksters with their machinations to undermine Brexit. But they forget, we see you. You have exposed yourself as self-serving technocrats in a safe space echo chamber. And long-term, we the voters, all of us here today and millions of others, are the source of your political authority. You need us to govern by consent. And when you shaft us without our consent, you weaken yourselves and you place the reputation of Parliament at peril and you betray democracy. Meanwhile, out here, Brexit has changed British politics forever. A recent poll said that only 8% now identify with a political party, but 40% of us and more identify as either Leave or Remain. It just shows that the old labels are irrelevant too. But they still use those old labels to smear us, don't they? According to the media today, we here now are a far-right rabble and a mob of racist scum. We cannot let those labels intimidate us. Let me tell you, I'm left-wing, I'm anti-racist, and I'm proud of it. But I'm not saying that to impress you, because what in fact the problem is that I'm going to get a load of stick from a load of my lefty peers for appearing at a Farage rally. No disrespect to Nigel, who's listening in the wings, but I'm not here for him. I am here for freedom. I am here for democracy. I am damned if I am going to let the right wing take those magnificent universal values and call them their own. They're all of our values. So I don't care. years, new politics needs new red lines, and that should be opened by... Let's build new movements worth voting for. We have got a taste of our own agency. We now know that we can make history, and we're not stopping now. And I can finish off with a quote from an old 90s anarchist song. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. We get knocked down, but we get up again. You're never gonna keep us down. Never. Freedom, the freedom genie is out of the bottle. Our day will come.
People voted for. And today you will lose the support of many Conservative MPs and millions of voters across the country.
They ask, why do we go out each and every Saturday to support the Conservative Party, gets MPs elected? And sir, for the first time in over 10 years, that group refused to go out and campaign.
Prime Minister, if you continue to apply for an extension to Article 50, you will be betraying the British people.
Please welcome to the stage,
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And what a wonderful crowd. I'm here to thank you for supporting Brexit. Not that lot over there that want to stop Brexit. When I founded Grassroots Out, and we worked with like Kate Hoey from Labour, Ian Paisley for the DOP, and Nigel Farage from UKIP, we worked cross-party to win the referendum. We voted to leave. We did not vote to leave with a deal. The Prime Minister said on 108 times in the House of Commons that we were leaving today, the 29th of March. She broke her word, which is why I did not vote for a bogus Brexit plan today. What the government is trying to force through is Brexit in name only, and I will never sign up to that. I believe when we voted to leave, we voted to end the free movement of people, not to send billions and billions of pounds of our money to the EU, and to make our own laws in our own country, judged by our own judges. Parliament must listen to the people, not listen to itself. Okay, so we're not out today on the 29th of March. But because the government lost the vote today, Brexit Day becomes the 12th of April. And can I ask you all to do one thing? Can you write to your MP and demand that they stick to that date and that we leave? No extensions, no phony deals. We need to come out. We need to come out on the 12th of April. My final point is you, the people, are what we MPs should represent. They should not be represented representing themselves, they should be representing you. And that's what I'm going to do, and we must come out on April the 12th. Thank you.
He sticks to his word. He votes with us. He votes with Brexit, as does the next speaker. He's a former minister, former Armed Forces minister. He's a true Conservative and a massive, massive Brexiteer. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Mark Francois.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today has been a mixed day of emotions, because today we should have been leaving the European Union. But also we had a great result in the House of Commons. Now I have to tell you, it has been an interesting experience being a member of the European Research Group for the last year or so. We have been called all sorts of things. The Chancellor of the Exchequer called us extremists. Chris Patten called us vermin. The Today programme implied that we were neo-Nazis. And then, for good measure, Donald Tusk sent us all to hell. So as we're all here today, I would like to take this opportunity to send a special message to all those Europhiliacs on the Today programme who have been pouring EU propaganda down our throats every morning for 30 years. And the message is this: up you! Neo-Nazis, you appreciate the personal nature of what we have just said. Now look, today was a difficult day, and, you know, many MPs were torn about what to do, I won't lie to you, and you will read more about that in the papers. But sometimes in life you have to have something to guide you. My father, Reginald Francois, was a war vet. He was at D-Day. And when I was 13 years of age, as a present, he gave me a copy of a famous poem called If, by Rudyard Kipling. And he said to me that if ever he was not around when I was in crisis or anxious, if I read the poem, it would tell me what to do. And I read it again the other night, and it could have been written for the ERG over the last year. And perhaps I could just read you the first stanza. Some of you may recognise it. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good and talk too wise. Ladies and gentlemen, in the House of Commons at 2:35 this afternoon, we voted on the Prime Minister's deal. The division was as follows, and I'm just checking my notes. The ayes for the rancid document, 386. The noes, to obey the instructions of 17.4 million people, 344 votes. I've spoken to today has asked what happens now.
She should resign.
Let me try very quickly, because there are many other far more interesting people who want to speak than me. In essence, because we passed a statutory instrument on Wednesday to extend the leaving date of Article 50 to 11 p.m. on the 12th of April, there are only two things that can now stop us leaving on that date. That is now the legal default position. It is the law. The first is that the European Council agree to extend Article 50 again. But I think that is unlikely, because that would mean they have to hold European elections in the United Kingdom, when it is possible that one or two people could be elected who are not entirely committed to the European project. So I believe they're not going to do that. The other way it could be stopped is if Oliver Letwin and Dominic Grieve and their gang, who we now refer to as the Provisional Government, try to ram a bill through the Houses of Parliament in 2 weeks before the 12th. I was the operations officer for the Whip's office for 2 years. That's why they hate me so much. And I'm here to tell you that procedurally that is not easy, not least because in the House of Lords we don't have Speaker Burko. So here's my peroration. 3 times, this wretched deal has been voted down by the House of Commons, your democratically elected representatives. Prime Minister, which bit of no don't you understand? And let me end with this, and thank you all those of you who have marched hundreds of miles. Because you believe in a wicked thing. You want to live in a free country. Not far from here, in Green Park, is the Bomber Command Memorial. And on it are inscribed the words of Pericles of Athens, who said the following: freedom is the sole possession of those who have the courage to defend it. You have that courage. That's why you're here. I don't want to tempt fate, because we have come so far and marched so hard. But there is a fighting chance, there is a possibility, there is a dream, there is a hope. 2 weeks from today, if we hold our nerve, this country will be free.
Party and no party. So we've had a couple from the right. I think Mark's right. Is he just right of centre? So now let's go a little bit further left. Our next speaker is the national organiser for the trade unionists against the European Union. He's been a member of the Labour Party for over 25 years. He's written about the disconnect between true working-class socialists and between the Islington Champagne socialists. Amongst all of us here, finally, he's probably the only lifelong supporter of Wolverhampton Wanderers. Please give a huge welcome to Mr. Paul Embry. Thank you very much, friends, brothers and sisters. As you've heard, this is a battle, but it isn't just a battle anymore to leave the European Union. This is as much a battle now to defend the principle of democracy, and we need to be clear of that. Because in 2016, in the biggest democratic exercise this country has ever seen, a majority out of 33 million people voted to leave the European Union. They didn't vote to leave only with a deal, they didn't vote to leave but to remain in all of the institutions of the European Union. They didn't vote to half leave, they voted to leave, and leave should mean leave. And I come from the labour and trade union movement, and once upon a time the leadership of that movement was very clear that it was opposed to the European Union because it saw it for the anti-socialist and anti-democratic institution it was. And we had a movement whose leadership believed in the principles of democracy and self-government. And I think of the likes of Tony Benn and Peter Shaw and Barbara Castle and Bob Crow and Michael Foot, giants of the Labour movement, who believe passionately in the right of British people to govern themselves rather than have unelected technocrats in Brussels govern the country for us. And it's a leadership today that unfortunately has lost faith in the ability of working people to be able to defend themselves and protect themselves outside of the European Union. And my message to the leaders of my movement is, if you want to stay relevant, then it's about time you put yourself on the side of the people over the establishment and big business. And you better do that damn quickly. And people say this country is divided 52-48. That isn't true. I know lots of Remainers. There are millions of Remainers, and I respect them because they voted the way they did, but they've accepted the result of the referendum, and they've urged the government to get on with it. And we should pay tribute to those people because they are true Democrats. So let's be clear about where the divide is. The divide is not between 52 and 48. The divide is not anymore between Leavers and Remainers. The divide, very simply, is between Democrats and anti-Democrats. And we need to remember that what happened in June 2016 was a genuine democratic revolt. It was a revolt among millions of people who felt abandoned by their political class. These people had suffered under austerity and globalisation, and they were suffering low wages and a lack of housing, and those people put a missile through the status quo, and they were absolutely right to do so, and we should defend them 100%. And let's not have any of this nonsense that they didn't know what they were voting for. They were voting to reassert democracy and community and self-government and belonging. And if their vote is not implemented, be in no doubt it would be the biggest betrayal of democracy in the history of this country. And we need to stand against it. And I'll finish on this. If they crush our voice, if they tell us that our voice still doesn't matter, if they continue to ignore the millions in those communities up and down Britain, in places like the North and the Midlands, if they continue to try to subvert our vote, we need the biggest campaign of peaceful civil disobedience that this country has ever seen. And we, all of us need to be at the forefront of that campaign. And it needs to embrace Leavers and Remainers, because it will be a campaign for the Democrats against the Democrats. That's what should unite us. Stand strong, stand proud, stand united, fight for democracy. We've not mentioned enough this afternoon about the biggest victim of this appalling deal of the Prime Minister's, and that's Northern Ireland. They've been completely and utterly shafted by this proposal. Their Brexit Minister, Sammy Wilson, sends his love, his support and his commitment, but he can't be here. But in his place we have another special member of the DUP, the Member of Parliament for North Antrim, which, as you all know, is the home of Bushmills whiskey. Please give a warm welcome to Ian Paisley.
Greetings from the people of Northern Ireland. I see an Ulster in the audience. You are red, you are white, you are dynamite, and it's great to see you in Parliament Square this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a good story recounted in the good book. It says the wise build their house upon a rock. I am glad today we are standing with the rock of the British people against the sinking of the withdrawal agreement that we will never, ever wear on our people. Your journey here has been long. It has faced many twists and turns. There will be more agonizing days and steps ahead. But ahead of us stands the sunny uplands of freedom. And we will take our freedom. Do not let any government ever put upon you a withdrawal agreement that cuts our great nation in two. The backstab that ruins our country. And thank you to the English, to the Scotch, to the Welsh for standing with the Ulster people. We say thank you, thank you, thank you. Let us continue to go forward in unity, in strength, together, in the knowledge that we are going to win. No surrender!
You're not laughing now, are you? We've got the law, but we have the Treaty of Versailles. And this treaty is the modern-day equivalent. She signed up to something that has proved to be a disaster. She signed up to something that no country, unless it had been defeated in war, would have signed up to. I know that virtually none of you have ever done a proper job in your lives. Brexit is going to happen anyway. Mr. Tusk, if you think the British people have changed their minds on Brexit, you, sir, are deluded.
Please welcome to the stage, Nigel Farage.
I sense, being in Westminster, that we are in enemy territory. There are hundreds of people just over the street that have treated that referendum and those that voted it with total and utter contempt over the course of the last 3 years. We have a Prime Minister who told us Brexit means Brexit, and then signed up to a new European treaty that in many ways was worse than the one
we wanted to leave. I did not fight. I did not give up 25 years of my adult life to fight to get us out of those European treaties, to see a British Prime Minister sign us up to another one. I didn't do that. And so I am pleased that Parliament today, for the third time, has voted that dreadful deal down, and we now have a chance of a clean sheet. But you know, what is happening here is actually bigger than just Brexit. It's bigger than the fact we voted for this in a referendum, being told our will would be honoured. It's bigger than 85% of us in the general election voting for parties who said they would honour the result. It's even bigger than 498 MPs voting for Article 50, which said we would leave the European Union on the 29th of March at 11 p.m. It's bigger than all of that. This is about our whole system of democracy. This is about the bond of trust that needs to exist between the people and those that govern us. This is about who we are as a nation, what our standing is in the world, and frankly, I believe that what has happened over there has not just turned this day that should have been one of great celebration into a day that history will mark as a day of betrayal. I believe that what has happened over the course of the last 2 years is actually one of the saddest and worst chapters in the history of our nation. What they want is to beat us down. What they want is us to give up. What they want is us to go away. Well, let me tell you, am I today on March the 29th downcast? Am I disheartened? No. No. I am more determined to fight back against this political path. Over today's date will probably be repeated on the 12th of April. But let us not be disheartened. I tell you what, if that means we have to fight the European elections on the 23rd of May, let me tell you, I will fight them. Come on, you'll embarrass me. And if the worst case scenario occurs, if they force us to fight a second referendum, we'll beat them by a bigger margin than that time. It's about our country. It's about our nation. It's about our democracy. It's about we stand for, what those that did before us gave, worked for, sacrificed, so that we could be free people. It's about our children and grandchildren growing up being proud to be British. I cannot think of any time in history in which a greater betrayal of a democratic vote has ever happened in any country in the Western world, and they can tonight over there content themselves because they think they're winning, because they live in the Westminster bubble. We are the real people of this country, and we know that referendum was the first of many great victories. We will get our country back. We will get our independence back. We will get our pride and self-respect back. We are going to win!
Sounds noisy down there as well. Hey? What for?
You're not laughing now, are you?
Suddenly we did.
Hi everybody!
It's